exploits and breaches, locks and hacks. Rachel and Will got your back. Cyber threats and password fails, they'll break it down with real details. Step into the convo, pull up a chair. Ideas are brewing, wisdom in the air. From vendors to zero trust, to keeping it real and keeping it just. One sips coffee, the other abstains, but both drop knowledge straight to your brain. Talking tech with a human touch, add some laughs, so we've got that much. Grab a cup and circle up our tea top that won't corrupt. Firewalls up, stay alert, let's keep the hackers eating dirt.
You guys don't know it, but Josh is off screen right now dancing to the theme song he helped me put together.
Oh, that would be a sight. Did you get it on tape?
No, it was magical though. I'm sad you all missed it. It's terrible. Hi, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Coffee Table Talks. We're here today with Mike Manrod, CISO, friend, wonderful human all around. Co-host as always, Will McCullen. Will, how am I supposed to introduce you now? We talked about this last time.
Will is fine.
Will. That's Will. Man, that's so much easier. It only took me 4 years to get the mouthful right. And then you're like, we don't have to do that. Like, great. Cool. If you're new here, I'm Rachel Arnold, the Human API. Also, that's it. No company affiliation there. So anyhow, I see everybody in. Oh, look, Meg Jet. Okay, so if you guys don't know, Meg Jet usually moderates for us. She's taking this month off because she also is an avid community arts supporter in the fact that she does the choreography and stuff for a lot of local like musical and theater type productions. And
That's
she's
awesome.
in a local production of Oklahoma, which me and some pals are going to go check out tonight. I'm super excited.
Awesome.
I know. So she's not going to be moderating for us. It's me. It's back to just the me mode right now. So if you pop your questions off to the side, I'm going to pop it up at the bottom, and then we'll force Mike uncomfortably to answer them. Be great. It's fun. Also, housekeeping, just remember, if you are chatting in the LinkedIn or the YouTube, it's going to scroll on the side here in this like Omni chat situation that's happening. So, be kind. Don't embarrass your family or friends because the internet is forever.
The internet is forever. That is so true, Rachel.
So, just have a little wisdom and foresight there, and you'll be fine. It'll be great. Anyhow, hi, Mike. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us. I really, really enjoyed meeting up with you at Cactus Con was that February, March? When was that?
Yeah, Valentine's Day, I think.
Yeah, it was February.
Yeah.
Man, it seems like a minute, but so long ago at the same time. Does that make sense?
It really does. Like, this year has been action-packed is, I guess, the best word I can think of. But yeah, and thank you so much for inviting me and to both of you.
Oh, of course. Are you kidding? So can you share with our audience a little bit about what your presentation was about at Cactus Con?
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. There's kind of a little bit of a story there. I was co-presenting with my friend and colleague Ezra Woods, a framework we released called Auto Pawn Key. And this started with a community we've co-founded called TSU, or the Threat Intelligence Support Unit, which basically starts with a free class. We teach it on GCU campus, but everybody is welcome, and instructors from lots of other places too. But then the whole idea is to have a community of people with baseline knowledge, analyzing what adversaries do, reverse engineering the tactics, the techniques, understanding them, and then sometimes testing how they work in a more controlled way than just like, hey, did we get ransomed, yes or no? Hey, let's break it down and start to test it systematically. So it all started with a phone call from Ezra about a year and a half ago, or it might have been a text message. I think it was a Teams call. He was like, Mike, have you ever heard of this thing called AutoIt? I was like, it sounds familiar, like maybe something I tinkered with years ago, but no, not really. And we realized that an adversary was using this and evading EDR products successfully.
Wow.
So at DEF CON Demo Labs last year, we released a kind of a testing framework called Bypass It together. And it successfully evaded everything, but it wasn't very feature rich when we released it. We didn't think it needed to be. We just wanted it to prove the point so people would fix it. Well, it turned out it didn't get fixed very well. And 2 weeks, like shortly after a couple of the talks we did on this, one of the adversaries pivoted to auto hotkey for covert delivery. So we're like, we better explore that. So, but we learned from our mistake. We figured we'd make it a little more feature rich so that red teamers, pen testers, and stuff would actually use it to raise awareness. And I think that's working. So we released Auto Pawn Key, a testing framework with Auto Hotkey at CactusCon this year. And shout out to Ezra for doing an amazing job of adding some UI and some features to make it so that people actually use it and test with it.
Yeah, very cool.
It's always good when they actually use it, right?
Right, yeah. Well, we thought we could just throw together a couple of scripts, back, a year and a half ago in the start. We're like, hey, if we throw together a couple of scripts that prove this tactic works and it's evasive, everybody will immediately spring into action and fix the root cause of the problem, especially if we release detection logic at the same time. And sadly, that's not how it's gone. So we're kind of pivoting our strategy and doing things a little differently.
Yeah, I remember when we saw you at the conference the night before, you were getting ready, putting all the finishing touches on. So we met and had some conversation. They were like, oh yeah, we're going to be up way late.
Hopefully no conference organizers are watching, but Ezra and I and some of our other friends and co-conspirators, like we're working with our friend Biniam on thanks, Spencer. Spencer's a great friend and mentor that I've learned a lot from, in the chat. But we always end up with what we call the one more feature factor. Like we'll be ready in advance for whatever we're presenting or releasing. Like we're pretty good to go with what just got approved yesterday for B-Sides Albuquerque with Auto RMM. We could present it in a week if we had to. But what will invariably happen is 1 week before the con, Biniam or Ezra or I will get an idea, and then one of us will be like, can we get this done? Can we do it? We're like, yeah, let's do it. And then we'll be up nonstop for like a week.
Well, isn't that pretty much mandatory for every presenter at a con? I mean, right?
I love that you preface that with, I hope no conference organizers are watching, when literally
you're a guy. I knew that. I planted that there for you as a joke.
So as a segue, if you guys want to check out and just bookmark the B-Sides New Orleans, Louisiana, or B-Sides NOLA, there's a QR code up there that you can do that from. We're going to get started planning for 2026 soon. 2025 was pretty great. Look, he made the heart thing happen again. Freaking Apple users.
That's a constant debate in our Teams chat. Like we have like OS loyalties and beverage loyalties. So like I shouldn't on Coffee Table talk about my beverage loyalties. I'll keep that undisclosed. But our Teams chat is just constantly beverage loyalty debates, OS loyalty debates, favorite programming language. Like our Teams chat is just constant banter for our team on these topics.
That's awesome. I love it. Am I not supposed to ask what's in your cup now, though? Like,
I don't know. You might hit the exit participant or like the kick person out button if I tell you what's in my cup right now.
Oh man, mine's actually coffee.
So when my kids asked to try my tea, and there I just doxed myself. They're like, Dad, why don't you just drink coffee? This is so strong and bitter. So I drink tea, but I drink it strong and bitter.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah, I don't do either.
There's a joke about security programs in there somewhere, I'm sure. Something about I like my tea like I like my security. Strong and bitter. No, that's not nice. We don't want
So that's the cons. Mike, what's your day job?
Yeah, so my day job is it's kind of funny. I don't think of it that often, but I was an engineer for Checkpoint back in the day, and I referred a friend for this job I'm in now, and luckily we're still friends. And just somehow through circumstance, I ended up with the job. But I'm a CISO for Grand Canyon University, is kind of my day job. I've got a great team, which is like the big blessing, and a lot of great colleagues who help and support me. Like, again, shout out to some mentors and friends on here, Rich and Spencer. But because I've got a great team and a lot of great collaborators, that's led to offshooting to other things. Like a big passion of mine is, with my friend Cameron, we teach the malware analysis class at GCU. And but really my day job is like any other CISO. It's overseeing change control, overseeing vulnerability management meetings, making sure projects and timelines are on track, negotiating contracts and prices and all that kind of thing. So it's like I have to do all the usual stuff, but we have a lot of fun too.
So what kind of differentiates the education community from some of the others?
I think the thing I love the most about the education community, and I didn't honestly plan to stay in this job for so long, but like I was like, I'll do this for 2 to 3 years and then go back to an engineering type role. But I kind of discovered a new passion in this job, which we can touch on later. But I just really, really love being a part of the education process. I love the process of seeing people learn, make connections, and grow. And heck, like our team's almost entirely built out of people who used to be students or redeputized from other jobs into IT security. So I mean, I love it. I have fun, and I hope to be in this job in another 8 years, just because because I love the people, the research, and the collaboration.
Yeah, education is kind of more a calling, isn't it? Because you're doing a lot more than just trying to go for the profit. You're trying to change people's lives, and that's quite a reward in among itself.
Yeah, I mean, and this may resonate with you, Will or Rachel or other people in the call, but like when I got started, I remember it being difficult and frustrating. And I had really good friends and mentors. Like Andrew Wilson did a great podcast with Tiberius on his journey. Well, it was recently released. Well, it was Andrew who got me started, back in the day, but there just weren't resources like there was today. It was difficult. I made a lot of turns down, wrong turns down dead ends in my learning journey. So, I know, Will, you work on this a lot too. We share this passion of just trying to figure out how to provide on-ramps into the career field and then provide an acceleration path for people to get up to speed and succeed in their careers.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what we're all about. And, that's why I went from the operational side over the teaching side, because you get into that realm of how are we going to get the next generation in there? Because it's getting crazy.
It is, and we have this, and Rachel, I know this is going to touch on one of your passion areas. I think we have this problem where we end up with these inflated numbers of job openings, right? Everybody's like, there's 100 million job openings, and of course I'm inflating that, for fun, but really the same job postings getting counted 30 times because of the way online promoting works. And really it was an internal position promoting somebody that was posted by accident, right? But there really are job openings, and people really do struggle to recruit for those. And there's a lot of opportunity. But on the hiring side, everybody wants CISSP and 5 years experience for the entry level role. Mm-hmm. And then on the on the learner side, we're not always doing a good job of getting people up to speed where they really can succeed. And there's this huge chasm. So I think what we're all working on here is how do we bring one up and the other down so that there's an ability to, like, I'm visualizing the Fast and Furious movie where they jump the bridge. How do we get them up to speed and the bridge low enough that they can make that jump?
Right. Yeah.
And then also provide them the experience.
Yep.
So that's why we built our Center for Excellence and have the cyber range, right? You hit it spot on because employers want folks that actually can do. It's nice to have certs and it's nice to have degrees, but when it comes down to it, can you do the job? Right.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, as somebody who, like, educates, like, that's a huge part of what I do. And at a university, the point is not the degree. The point is the skill. Like, it's a little bit the knowledge, but even more so the skill, the ability to apply that knowledge to make an environment more secure, to find and fix problems, to respond to attacks. Like, that's what we really want. So I think we have to get out of just, hey, here's a bunch of slides, you're off, to, like, actually cultivating. We need to teach cyber more like you teach martial arts and less like you teach, English literature.
And that's what probably led you to the teaching side, right? Because doing a class, you said.
It really is. Like, when we released the TSU training, or the Threat Intelligence Support Unit training. And by the way, just so I don't step over it, thanks to everybody for the really nice feedback in the chat. And Meg, definitely security all the way. I joke that TSU is TSU, not TISU, TEA-SU. But no, like, when I created that curriculum with Christian Talon and Ezra and Megan Howell and the others who helped with that at the first wave, the thing I thought of is, what does everybody fail to answer in the job interviews that I wish they could answer right? And that's kind of what we started to build. And then we tried to reverse that and build it into the core curriculum. But yeah, like, it's how, that is what led me into it, Will, and maybe it's what led you into it too, in part, is how do we train the people we want to hire
and provide the environment that, one of the things that we get, which for us is a great deal of success, right? We bring people through the environment and they say, where was this when I was trying to get going? Right? It's like, yes, score. We're making progress.
Yeah, my learning journey was so clunky, and heck, I'm still filling gaps literally this week for things I should have learned well over a decade ago, right? So, how do we save the next generation those missteps we had to make?
Well, it never changes, because that's the one thing that I tell students all the time is, if you want to get into IT, do it because you have a passion for it. Mm-hmm. This is not the job you want to be in if you don't like what you're doing.
You're going to be real frustrated and real sad all the time.
It's so true. Like, I mean, I'm not a morning person, so, take this with a grain of salt. But when people ask, like, is security a 9 to 5 job? I'm like, no, it's more of a 5 to 9 job, at least some days.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure y'all, there's lots of folks in the that are viewing right now that already know that I'm married to a security professional. That's kind of how I got here a little bit. It was one of those things where we're best friends and I'm always interested in what he's interested in, kind of thing. But as a lead / principal security analyst for a SOC at a global company, security is not 9 to 5 ever. And you want to know why? I mean, and I've preached it to so many people in the past too. I'm like, stop trying to sell or pitch security analysts. Just stop it. Because those guys woke up at 2 a.m. whenever their third-party SOC like triaged an alert that they needed to pay attention to, and they're real grumpy. And they don't want to talk to you. Like, at all. They just want to do their job. And they just want to do it without being interrupted and maybe take a nap. in between things they need to be paying attention to. Like they're just tired and grumpy. Don't do that.
It's so true, and I mean, you got to be passionate because like Christmas was canceled this year by attackers for us, right? And you know, my friend on our team, Jim, he and I were like just up round the clock because we're like, all right, how can we respond and solve this? Yeah, and Jim's been on this team longer than I have. How do we solve this with pulling in as few people as possible so we don't have to ruin too much of the holidays for too many people? And that was like the name of the game. And and if we had fun. If we didn't love it, that would have been miserable and like grumbly. But the reality is, we had fun. We learned new things. We cracked jokes. You know, we hadn't gotten to spend that much time on a Zoom together in a few years. So, like, if you love what you're doing, even those rough days sometimes can have fun and joy in them. But if you're just doing it because somebody told you, and you know, hey, like, oh, I looked at a job stat and that looks like it pays a lot. You know, those are the miserable doctors, those are the miserable lawyers, and that's also the miserable security people.
Yeah, don't let anybody lie to you. It's not. I mean, it's worth it if you love it, right?
Carrie brought up a really cool question up there because that's a huge challenge. As educators, what strategies to use to overcome the delay between cutting edge tactics and curriculum approvals?
All right, you guys, I don't know. Look, I'm out of this. Now I'm just going to learn. I'm going to learn from the curriculum.
Okay. So to kind of bring this to light for those that are not in the education arena,
that's me.
Trying to bring in curriculum, trying to develop classes is often a very long and difficult process. And one of the things that is really, wouldn't you say, Mike, a main challenge across the board, because it involves everything from elements that have to be checked off from the Department of Education to your curriculum boards, to however many changes can be made in a specific time, to, okay, then when do we make it part of a master or whatever, so that all that curriculum is there and ready. So trying to change over or make major changes in anything is a real challenge in the education industry across the board. So when you talk about delays into curriculum approvals, that's what Carrie is talking about. And that's a massive deal and really needs to be changed. How are you folks, are you in this process at all, Mike, or are you just adjunct faculty, or are you part of the curriculum creation at all?
A good question, and I'm curious how you handle it too, Will. A little bit. So I am like adjunct faculty, right? I've been a curriculum SME, but I'm a part of a lot of meetings that I'd say like are over my pay grade, to use an old military term we used to use. Right, I get invited to those because of my operational role. I get invited to a lot of things I wouldn't normally. You know, there's a lot of close collaboration there. But where I can speak most authoritatively is the class that Cameron and I teach, the CYB 320 malware analysis class. Some principles are timeless, right? And then some things need to change week to week. So, like if you go back and reread practical malware analysis, follow the labs and analyze the samples, it'll give you a really good start in reversing, even though that book is from like 14 years ago. Like a lot of the things are not new. A lot of the things are new applications of age-old knowledge. And Rich Owen, you know, on this call, you did an amazing event with us a bit back where he presented the Rainbow series, which I have behind me, and told his stories from like writing the first guide for NASA in 1990. And you go look at these guides from decades ago, and there's a lot of timeless wisdom. But you also need to know that like 10 years ago, you could, like, you put MFA and you're good. Today, it's like an adversary is absolutely going to make it around your MFA, and you need to start with that assumption. Yeah. So I think the challenge is, how do you design curriculum to anchor the timeless principles and certify that for your accreditation while providing white space where you then have quality faculty who bring in what's in the news, make slides last minute. Like I'll sometimes show up late to teach, probably more often than I'd like to admit, because I was in the hallway making a slide from something I learned or figured out from a meeting I was in or a tweet I read, maybe one of Spencer's tweets 20 minutes before class. I'm like, oh crap, I got to make a slide to that. And then I walk in 5 minutes late with something I learned from Spencer that I bring right into the classroom right that day. But that's not the stuff that affects accreditation. You know, at the end of the day, we're certifying knowledge, and some of that knowledge and skill is quite timeless.
You know, you mentioned Rich Owen. Did you know that Rich Owen was my first test victim for streaming?
No, I did not.
He is. If you go to my YouTube channel and go all the way back, you'll find Rich was awesome. I was clunky. Two streams that were recorded there, and it's Rich. And Rich was actually part of the inspirational process for starting this stream. Rich.
Yeah. Rich is
small world
inspiration and an icon for all of us.
Oh my gosh, is he ever? And that's what I came across him as he was leaving his CISO gig with was it a cable company or something? I don't know. He'd been there forever. And we were chatting and he was like, I would have loved to have utilized, your services as a value-added reseller, but I'm retiring in a couple of weeks. And I was like, that's fine. We can just talk. Like it was COVID and I was, missing out on meeting new people, and I'd come across Rich and he accepted my virtual meeting. And so we were chatting and I was like, so how'd you get started in this industry? You're coming to your retirement. And he was like, well, this one time in Vietnam. And I was like, oh my God. We talked for like 3 or 4 hours. And at the end of it, I was like, hey, Rich, can we do this? Like, I should have hit record on all of this. Can we do this again? But like invite people. And it just kind of came out of that. And that's when I learned about, the Rainbow Book series and his work with NASA and like all this other stuff. Rich talking about his experience in signal intelligence in the Army days led me down a rabbit hole of a greater understanding of cybersecurity across, decades rather than just the small snapshot that most of us are like, oh, well, cybersecurity really is new. And it's not that, but it isn't at the same time. Like the basis for it and the pioneers that founded what we all do today are people like Rich. Sorry, I got off on a tangent because I'm so excited.
Well, Rich, if you're open at some point in time, I'd love to have a conversation with you because that's that critical knowledge that comes back to like the days of how IP really got going. And if you really look into that, the whole concept of the OSI model is not quite as glamorous as certs would like it to be. Because we're all using the OSI protocol, right?
Yeah.
No, that never quite came there. Mm-hmm. And the politics and things like that. I'd love to hear more about some of that. But anyhow.
All right, Mike, focus on Mike.
I don't know. So I'm the one to say, like, I think there should be a 2.0 of Rich on this podcast telling some of the stories that he told us when he came out in person a few months back and was kindly gifted me some of his book collection. Like, I think that should be on this podcast.
I had a guest cancel, our next guest, and I published it out. She's just not able to make it. I noticed that she declined the coffee table talk invite for her session just this morning.
Yeah, there you go.
Hang on, I'm going to go message Rich. Hold on, we're going to message Rich.
the other while we're giving people shout outs that you should consider for a guest, we've got Spencer Tech Spence on here. Like he's been doing something kind of unique that in terms of like doing a lot of pen testing and not like I like to call it the cookie cutter pen testing. I sort of like rage against because in my environment, I had problems for years that I didn't know existed because in the beginning of my job, I just sort of read the reports and thought I was good. And then maybe about 5 years ago, we really started testing. And it's funny, when I really started getting more into purple and red teaming was one of our engineers, Glenn, kicked me out of making prod changes because I'd been an engineer. So I kept breaking stuff because I'd go like work an investigation or side project for a while. I'd come back, I would have missed the memo about how something was configured, and I caused a couple outages. So our engineers were like, Mike, you can't touch prod anymore. I'm like, all right, well, what do I do to stay technical and relevant? And then meanwhile, like I wanted to stop being a CISO about 6 years ago because there's all these boring meetings. I can't like do real work multitasking because then it'll be like Bueller, Bueller, Bueller when somebody calls on me. But what can I do that requires like a little bit of attention? And the answer was I could just fuzz things and tinker with things and look for problems. And so like all the long, boring meetings that made me want to quit being a CISO all of a sudden became the favorite part of my job. Now I look forward to that meeting where I get to like halfway listen, jump off video. And right now I'm really into kiosk hacking, and Spencer's been like helping me on private message, giving me advice of like, hey, you could try this, look at that, along with several other friends like Ezra and Cameron and Jim. But that started with the problem of hating being a CISO because there's long, boring meetings I just had to sit through. And now I look forward to those times. It's like, okay, great, I'll listen. I'll take a note. I'll listen for my name to be called. But then I can mindlessly tinker with an app that seemed a little off in a bridge call, or like, hey, wait, that doesn't look right, but I don't understand why. I can just slowly tinker with it over time. And then eventually, sometimes that leads to finding something big.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is when you're in a meeting and everybody's thinking you're taking notes on your laptop.
Right. And to be clear, there's a lot of meetings that I'm responsible for running, or I'm responsible for making a decision. And just so I don't dox myself and have this used against me later, I pay attention in those meetings. But there's a lot of meetings where it's like one status update and then an hour and a half of things that I sort of need to listen, but I don't need to make a key decision, right? But those are the ones that like we as security leaders can use that time to tinker, to explore, to find problems, and then hopefully get those problems fixed.
Oh, Rich finally responded to us. He's driving and listening. Look, safety first, friends. Okay, if you're listening to us while driving, don't freak out. All right, I want you to get to wherever you're going, all in one wholesome piece. All right,
yeah, and Rich, like you never need to apologize. Like so much of what we do is inspired and influenced by you. I'm just honored and grateful that you're here and that you're a part of all these communities.
I know. I asked him. I was like, one of our first meetings, I was like, did you write a book about this? Like, how come nobody knows all of this story? He was like, nobody asked. I was like,
so he wrote a book called The Information Alchemy, and I'm probably butchering the title, but if you search Rich Owen, and some children's books called The Security Sam.
Yep. He sent those to me. Actually, I've got some of those.
So maybe he took your advice. He'll probably weigh in on social media later, but maybe he took your advice because now he's written a bunch of books.
Like I was like, you have to write this stuff down, man.
Also, I got to give a shout out to John Martin. Anytime I see that, like, definitely I encourage everybody to get back in the classroom. If you're here, you probably have knowledge to share, and whether it's a community college, whether it's GCU, whether it's a state college, definitely be an adjunct. If you've got knowledge to share, get out there. And thank you so much, John.
John, look, if you get a chance, go hit up John Martin later, Mr. Mike Manrod. You two would be great friends because John is just an amazing human, absolutely delightful. And he does very much so have that mentor heart and spirit about him. I'm going to convince him to be a guest. Because that's how you get here. That's how you get to have a seat and drink coffee is just be a decent human, which you would think would be more common. It's just not. But
well, I think the most powerful lesson that folks who have been in the industry for quite some time can pass on to students, especially when we have all this infrastructure that has developed over time, everything from networking to programming to all this stuff, is to pass on the concept to students that you can be part of it too. It wasn't just that you had these absolutely brilliant individuals, a handful, and they developed everything. No, it was a whole bunch of people working to solve problems. And yes, a lot of them are brilliant, but also a lot of them are just people. And the thing that we have to get across to students is that it's okay to explore. That where a lot of greatness comes from is simply having the passion to do and to explore and to make things happen. And before you know it, you find yourself in the position of having made great contributions. That's the most important message we can get across. And the way that you brought up with industry of needing that hands-on, I almost think we need to fundamentally shift some of the elements of teaching, because as you talked about in creating the courses, so much of it is just knowledge-based information. We have to get away from simply just giving a whole bunch of knowledge units for regurgitation and start turning it into, here, thank you for this information. Now, what do we do with it? How can we design it? How can we make it grow? Especially with the elements that AI is bringing to the table, where knowledge units, portions can be easily accessed, and then teaching people how to really take that tool and then put critical thought behind it. If we don't get that, let's start thinking about critical thought, we're going to be in trouble. Would you agree, Mike?
Yeah, I would. And it's funny, so there's a lot there to unpack, Will, and you're spot on, right? I love the scene in Harry Potter where they're like time traveling, and he's like, "Oh, my dad's gonna come save me," and then he's like, "Oh crap, I gotta that was me. I saved myself, through time travel." Yeah, I think we have that realization of oh, I'm looking to this source or that source to be the source of my wisdom and inspiration, and that's good, right? A lot of my favorite people and mentors I'm blessed to have here on this call. But at the end of the day, it's not like the people who do the things that make a difference aren't like some inspired outside source. It's just regular people who got inspired and worked hard, and then when it failed, worked a little bit harder, right?
Awesome.
And but on the educational piece of that, I think that's important too. And kind of the tinkering journey I've been on of looking at how I'm learning and still learning. I think one of the problems is an environmental problem. I don't know that we'll ever codify a curriculum that creates the real world experience completely, but I think we can create an environment where people willing to do the work to get the real world experience can do so. So, for example, I used to be a corpsman or a medic in the Navy, and I was thinking of being a doctor when I got out. So I asked an anesthesiologist on our ship, just different career questions, and he was kind enough to take these questions. And I asked him what his GPA was in med school, and he's like, "Mike, do you know what you call the person who finishes top of the class in med school?" I was like, "Valedictorian?" He was like, "Yes." He was like, "Do you know what you call the person who finishes bottom?"
A doctor.
Yeah, he's a doctor. No, and he never answered the question. But it was a really important formative thing. So if we put out a degree program for cyber or tech or engineering or medicine, there will be people who barely make it through. And that's okay. And some of those people may surprise us and do amazing things later. But there are also people who will take advantage of every single opportunity available to them. And for those people, I think we can create clubs, supplementary environments. And we're working on something we're calling HackNet that we're releasing September 1st, But like if normal cyber learning is like Mario Bros, one of my favorite games, all left to right, all scripted blip across the screen, we want cyber learning that's more like Minecraft, right? Where it's open world and you can be creative and even find new things as a learner. Sometimes beginners may discover stuff that advanced people miss. So
Mm-hmm.
what we're building is that kind of this environment with like an easy zone, a medium zone, a hard zone, and it'll have some labs and conscripted things, but every vulnerable web app will be running on a server joined to a domain with misconfigurations, and there will even be some things we configure with zero misconfigurations we know of, so that students can find the things we don't know of. But yeah, I think we need to approach this differently, Will.
So is that students only? Like I can't just go kick around?
So actually, we're going to put it in our Cyber Center of Excellence, aka like our warfare range, and we do a lot of events there already. So guests, we welcome community events. So if you're like, hey, I just want to bring out my team and spend a night exploring this, like we'll make time for you to do that, absolutely. And if you want to contribute, if you're like, oh, I have a vulnerable web app I created and you should host it, like definitely provide that, because we can't do it alone. So all the contributions and help are welcome.
That's very cool.
Oh, dude, you need to come down. Let's give you a tour of our space. Because if we can make connections, the better off we all are, right? If higher ed as total can start making some of these connections, sharing the information, imagine what we could do, right? Because China is raising hackers like our baseball leagues. What if we could actually start connecting a lot of that, sharing that information, and turn it into an environment of lifting each other up instead of trying to hold our tails the highest, and maybe we can reform the industry, because the bad guys are definitely sharing. We need to get to where we train up students to where they're used to sharing.
Yeah, 100%, Will. 100%. I mean, I'm down. Like, whatever you want to do, like, let's collaborate. Let's figure things out. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great, and this is kind of like an Arizona community thing, but it's growing larger. Like, we've got the ACTRA, the Arizona Cyber Threat Response Alliance. We built TSU to help share information. I'm excited to announce UAT has been approved to do the first TSU chapter outside of GCU, right? So, like, let's interconnect communities, let's share, let's collaborate, because really it's about collective defense and getting stronger together. Like you said, it's not about whose tails held the highest, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the adversaries are sure working off of each other's notes.
I mean, down here, we've teamed up with Ryan Murray in the state of Arizona, and folks, they have done the soft opening of the RSOC down here at Pima, to where the students have been hired by the state of Arizona, now interns, are working to protect Pima County, Sarita County, and Cochise County, right? And some of our students were hired, are now working to do this for the state. They're leading these efforts to be able to stamp out these RSOCs in the different schools around the state. If we can do that, where take advantage of creating this application real world element for students, here you are, real world, right? Because students rebel at knowledge out of context. Give them the context to where you're actually making a difference. You're moving the needle. Here we are, we need your help. That changes the whole environment. It makes it practical. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, well, in Ryan's vision for like, both defense and uplifting those who don't necessarily have the resources or budget. What he's done already with him and Nan and that team with uplifting the state and negotiating deals where entities like a small city or county or tribe that couldn't afford the right tools can get, it's huge. And then Caroline Lynch and Secure AZ is kind of in lockstep. And I think what Arizona is pioneering, that I hope every other state adopts, is a collective defense model where you have a public sector component, a private sector component, stitched together, closely knit, collaborating, and everybody is more secure and everybody's learning and growing.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I think the work's already happening, and let's just make one more connection along that pipeline, and let's make it happen.
I love it. I love it when coming together. It was one of my favorite things too about being at Cactus Con with you all, is that we got Will and I had a great opportunity to sit down with Ryan and Nan. I love her, by the way. Like, I want to grow up one day and be Nan fan. So we sat down and we're talking it out, and as Ryan was talking more and more about what that was going to look like, the future state of that, that's when it dawned on me. I was like, you need to be best friends with John Davis, my boss at the previous company I was just with, and as somebody to kind of pull all the strings together and bridge all the gaps where he's already got so much part of that program for the licensing structure and everything else, but to have somebody from a vendor management, vendor relationship standpoint that's an expert in that area is just so valuable. I mean, that's some of the work that I do internally with Lumen now, is part of a vendor management office. It's a whole fleet of people that their whole mission in life every day is to facilitate these relationships, conversations, keep them organized, in compliance. Sometimes you need that person whenever you're working on a project that's that big. And I love kind of pulling together all these little parts, and like seeing your conversation today unfold with Will is so heartwarming and wonderful. And just, I think, a true attestation to how collaborative we actually can and should be in the cybersecurity industry and community at all levels.
Yeah. If we can get past the posturing, right. And that's the beautiful thing with what, you and John with Secure Nation have been doing, is working to be partners, right? Not just, there's so many out there who just really want to try to hoover up whatever money they can. But what you need are partners. And if we can start getting the focus of lifting each other up, because folks, we've got a lot of bad stuff coming against us. Look at the world events right now. Very soon, we're going to have a whole lot of really miffed people over there that just want to focus on over here. And it's already happening. I mean, it's not very soon, it's here, but it's going to get a lot more effort behind it, right?
Yeah, there's
we
going
need
to
to be ready for that.
Yeah,
and we need to have folks, students, that can walk into this environment and have the background to be able to say, how would I hack this? To be able to know, how would I defend it? Right? And we have to get past, and from a CISO level, right? Like the lazy IT, not just how to make it work, but how to shore it up.
Right.
Yeah, and I think like what Naho and Carrie put in the chat's very relevant to that, right? Like, it's the understanding, right? That there's an illusion. There's like an old model of security, which is the vendor tells us we need these things, or I read this in a standard and it says we need these things. We check all those boxes and we're good. Versus the, as you say, Will, like actually understanding, being curious, looking at like, great, I deployed an EDR. It says in the PDF brochure that the sales guy said it stops this. Let's test it and make sure it really stops it. And I love, Carrie, what you put. It's like learning MITRE ATT&CK is like collecting Pokemon, right? Like collect all the Pokemon, learn the MITRE ATT&CK, and then apply it in your environment to find real things that you can fix and improve.
It's a challenge, and it's going to become more of a challenge all the time.
I think it starts with something you alluded to, Will, which is a sense of empathy and being vulnerable and coming to the table and realizing none of us are secure, right? No org, whether you're talking to a Fortune 10, whether you're talking to a defense contractor, an airline, a university, a security firm with lots of experts, we're all Swiss cheese. We're like, there's holes in like, I don't think, and Spencer, you can weigh in on the chat as somebody who tests stuff for a living and leads others in doing that, but I don't think there's a state of secure anywhere in the world. So I think if we have the humility to admit that, set aside the egos, set aside the pride, realize we all need each other and we all need to work together to get better. It's never going to be perfect, but simple improvements can take us a long way. And if we can get from 20% to 80% by working together, that could make a huge difference for our society and way of life.
I love that 100%. I just have to throw this in because, we, in the range down here, we made that our culture that we threw on the wall, right? Leave your ego at the door. And that's 100% spot on, because if we walk in with the concept of it's about me or it's about my product and I'm the best, we're not going to make it, because it does take all of us, and we all have to be able to step in and say, oh, hey, what are you doing? Can you help? I'm trying to figure this. Do you know anything about it? Right? We've got to get to that stage.
It's so true. And it's funny, like, as I reflect back hearing that, Will, like, and I mean, I've been part of the problem personally. Like, I used to be a pre-sales engineer. Like, I was that guy, right? Like, I was the problem. And then that's okay, right? Because the goal is not to be there. The goal is for all of us to learn and improve and grow. And I think back on things I said 10 years ago, and I'm, ooh, yeah, I cringe, but hey, Maya Angelou said, we did in Why the Caged Bird Sings, we did the best we can, and when we knew better, we did better, right? Like, I think that should define how we evolve as an industry.
Absolutely. And as people every day, hopefully.
Right, hopefully as people too. Hopefully we're not just improving at work.
Right. I think what's so difficult about change for so many people is that it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable, it's unbalanced whenever you're going through change, or you're admitting something about yourself, or you're being vulnerable, or you're exercising your empathy to make it stronger. You're uncomfortable because you have to face some hard truths about yourself and about things about you that may be ugly.
Yeah.
Well, also if you get hurt too, right? That's right. the big, what was Mark Twain, I think, something along the lines of when a cat sits on a hot stove lid, he'll never sit on a hot stove lid again. But then he won't sit on a cold one either.
Right.
So we got to push, even though we're going to get hurt, we still have to push to get out there and open up.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and the stove lid thing is an interesting bit of wisdom. My friend Aaron Clark always talks about, I don't know if he's on or not. My martial arts teacher would always talk about, he'd always say that's common sense, right? Or everybody in the martial arts would be like, that's just common sense, or that would be implied, like your foot's in the wrong position. But then, like, he began to realize and share and change the paradigm of our organization on the martial arts side to, like, hey, common sense is based upon common knowledge. And until you have common knowledge, there can't be common sense, right? Like, if one person thinks a next generation firewall fixes it and another person thinks an EDR fixes it, And then there's somebody who tests things for a living who's like, neither of those things fix it. And then a customer, newer customer, newer to the industry, is like, who the heck do I even listen to? Right. So I think that the information sharing leads to the common knowledge. And then once we have common knowledge, we can have common sense with that granular understanding of knowing the difference between the hot lid and the cold lid.
Awesome.
So when are you two hanging out?
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, soon. Like you can you can refresh a text thread, Rachel, and we should all hang out sometime real soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm in Louisiana. You guys are only like what, an hour and a half apart?
Yeah, we should hang out soon. I'll see you at. Are you going to DEF CON?
I'm not. I don't. I refuse.
Okay. Well, then I'll see you at B-Sides NOLA, if not sooner, Rachel.
Yeah. Well, you got to check out GurkCon. Oh, guess what, everybody? I already told Mike and Will, so I forgot to tell everybody else. I had a talk officially accepted by GurkCon. It's on my bucket list, and I get to do a check mark. I'm so excited. And it's a topic that I'm deeply passionate about, if you haven't figured it out yet, about vendor relationships and why they're important and why they matter. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun talk where it's going to feel kind of like a Sally Jesse Raphael, maybe a little bit of Jerry Springer, but like, you know, in a healthy way. Because vendor relationships are very much so like any other relationship in your life, right? The basis of the success is determined upon the frequency and clarity of communication, the clear expectations, the ability to shift those expectations and agree upon new ones, right? Like all these things. And it's just going to be a guided walkthrough on some stories that I have from my personal experience where it got real terrifying. And, you know, just some even mistakes I've made because I'm human too. Like times I probably shouldn't have told that security team that their baby was ugly. You know, like, oops, kind of things. So that's going to be really fun. GurkCon is October the 2nd and 3rd. Yes, 2nd and 3rd. And that's GRRCON dot. What did I share with you, Mike? Is it an org? Com. No, com.
Yeah,
.com.
Yeah, .com.
.com. And it's in Grand Rapids, Michigan in October. Do you guys know how beautiful it is in Grand Rapids, Michigan in October? It's like all the autumnal foliage is alight.
That's beautiful. It's a lot of fun.
It really is. I'm so excited. So, yeah. Oh, and then I'm doing HubeCon, Human Behavior Conference in Orlando in November, which is the only time anybody should go to Florida is when it's real cold. That's going to be fun too. Very cool. A talk on neurodiversity. If you've been watching my post on LinkedIn, I've had a couple of posts about kind of giving a little teasers about what my talk is going to be, but it's going to be focused on neurodiversity and cybersecurity, which I am those things. Also, if you couldn't tell, right? It's going to be a good time. I think me and the husband are going to take 2 days after the conference and go to Disney. So come hang out with us at the Human Behavior Conference and we'll go to the happiest place on earth right after. It'll be great. We'll skip arm in arm, hand in hand. We were going to be announcing our guest for next week, the 27th, but she had to cancel today. So we're working on Rich. Hey, Rich, what you doing next Friday, buddy? If Rich can't make it, don't worry. We'll figure something out. Me and Will will be there. We will be here. It'll be great. We're going to have a good time. Make sure you go to Mike's QR code that goes to his LinkedIn. Send him a little connect request. He saw you on the coffee table talk. Let's be pals. He's pretty good about that. If you want to check out more about what Will and his group are up to, you can go to that QR code. That's a good one. I saw Najo on here. So B-Sides NOLA again, favorite QR code. And I am also part of this group, ISACA Baton Rouge chapter. We've got a couple events coming up in July that are going to be incredible. So make sure you go there. You can follow them on LinkedIn through that QR code and find out where those events are. One of them's a membership drive, and we're going to try and get you to drink all the Kool-Aid, but you're not going to die. You're just going to get certified at the end. Right? That's fine. That's okay. It's a safe place. Anyhow.
So, Mike, do you have any parting thoughts or words?
Thank you.
So this has been wonderful. Thank you so much to both of you for inviting me to this great conversation, for all the kind words and encouragement and wisdom in the chat. And just like, hey, if for those senior, let's keep giving back. For those just getting started, you can do it, right? Like, this career is for you. And if it seems daunting, it seemed daunting to all of us who are doing it today. You're not alone. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I promise it's worth it.
I love it. It's so good. Well, thank you guys so much. And thank you again, Mike, for giving up some time and coming and hanging out with us. We love it so much. Don't go anywhere, though, Mike. Stay on after we hit the end thing, because we're going to chitty chat for just a few more minutes. You guys have a great weekend. We will see you all next week. Same bat channel, same sorta-ish time. We're working on the time thing. There might be some shifts in time. So just keep track of that, okay? And that's just
shifts. Oh, no.
That's what happens whenever you take on a new job.
It's all timey-wimey.
Yeah, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey things. So I have the hiccups so bad. I got to go get a drink of water. You guys, we'll see you later. This is the part where we smile and wave.